Okay, so welcome to our Thursday night live Ishtagoshti meeting. Welcome Narayan Prabhu, Rupa Manjari, Jagannath Das Prabhu, and Mahaprabhu. And today we'll be reading a paper called Can ISKCON Survive Without Ishtagoshti? And Narayan Prabhu wrote this wonderful paper. So let's get going. Rupert, can you start off, Prabhu? Or go as long as you want to read? And then I'll
Sure.
take over. And we got Jagannath Das Prabhu here too. He can read also.
Sure.
Okay. Can ISKCON survive without Ishtagosti? The founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, instituted the process of Ishtagosti even before the society he established was incorporated. It was his intent that the process of attending these communicative meetings continue into perpetuity as a vital part of the spiritual advancement of his disciples. Although he advised us to create temples and ashrams that were based on a strict hierarchy of authority, such as is found in a military academy, he nonetheless requested that we simultaneously institute a process that would create an arena in which doubts could be openly expressed. The opportunity to express doubts in an Ishtagosti context is an indispensable and vital component of the process by which Vaishnavas reveal their minds to other Vaishnavas. In the sanctuary of an Ishtagosti meeting, there is no question of rank. Whatever authority one has been granted in order to function in a management or political capacity within ISKCON must be understood to be irrelevant to one's spiritual advancement and be dropped before the session of Ishtagosti can begin. Like the round table of the legendary King Arthur, Ishtagosti establishes a sense of mystical equality which creates a climate in which openness and humility can grow. When such a group meets on a plenary level, openly and frankly discussing both scriptural and personal issues, the tendency to retain such personal flaws as insincerity and duplicity are reduced almost to nil. Since the productive result of the Ishtagosti process is vital to the deliverance of the inhabitants of this planet during the next 10,000 years comprising the golden age of Kali, it can be understood that higher beings such as demigods, great yogis, as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, monitor such meetings and extend their blessings to the successful outcome of the issues discussed. Practicing Ishtagosti on a global scale will naturally tend to create enclaves of sincere and realized devotees who will begin to savor the opportunity to regularly absorb a rich infusion of Srila Prabhupada's Vani while observing exactly how his association begins to saturate the context of their daily lives, unleashing the inherent goodness and loving nature that is the essence of the spirit soul. Such devotees will begin to thrive in each other's association, seeking one another out to share their daily increase in spiritual realization. The process of Ishtagosti promotes development of spiritual consciousness at the grassroots level so that the urgent message of Lord Chaitanya can be successfully instituted into every home and dwelling, spread to every town and village. This process cannot be taught in a large classroom situations to a passive student body, nor by blindly and unquestioningly following ambitious and oligarchical leaders. A true Vaishnava society can never be achieved until each and every disciple of Srila Prabhupada is well versed in the conclusions of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, and has built a high level of individual commitment through the introspective process of personal realization. Since the natural result of the istigosti process is purity of purpose, and since we understand that purity is the force, then it becomes clear that the time and effort spent during istigosti meetings will reap rich rewards in the field of action, as crippling self-doubt is systematically replaced with a clear human understanding of how to reach out to our suffering brethren and draw them closer to our heartfelt, intimate discussions as they gradually yield up the torment of their material lives in exchange for the ever-satisfying process of direct perception of the self by realization, everlasting and joyfully performed. NNB Das, 1995.
Jai.
Narayan, that's an excellent piece of writing.
Well channeled.
Jai. Okay. Excellent reading, Rupa. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Jagannath Das Prabhu, would you like to comment, or can you tell us your thoughts about Ishtagoshti and that this type of meetings?
Yeah, I read this yesterday too, and you sent this. I really liked reading it.
Oh.
And I loved the way Narayan Prabhu explained it. Just cowherd boys sitting in a circle.
Jai. Yes, Narayan Prabhu, in the first paragraph, you said the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, instituted the process of Ishtagoshti even before the society. Even before the society he established was incorporated. So that was he was having meetings before ISKCON was a corporation. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Now, a little later, every disciple was so personally connected with Srila Prabhupada that they all wrote letters to him with issues that they wanted discussed and anything. But what they really wanted was a letter back from Srila Prabhupada. I know this for a fact because during that time, if a mail came in, oh, I got a letter from Srila Prabhupada. Oh, I got a letter from Srila Prabhupada. Well, obviously, Srila Prabhupada couldn't expand the movement very far and answer every single statement that people wanted. So that's why he instituted this Istigoshti. But during in that process, he made it clear that by asking these questions in the circle of cowherd boys. So when we say circle of cowherd boys, which is discussed in this paper, you say circle of cowherd boys, this means cowherd boys, and who else is in that circle of cowherd boys is also Krishna. I didn't mention that in the paper, but Krishna is also present.
Yes.
I can say without hesitation that Srila Prabhupada, let's say when Subal was trying to start a temple in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he was saying, I think I should close the temple because I come here, I have kirtan every night, and nobody comes in to take part, zero. And Prabhupada said, you say nobody? The demigods are coming, and Krishna is coming, everyone is coming, they're floating above you. Because you're chanting, they have come. Now you might say, well, isn't it a big action for the demigods and Krishna and everyone to come? Not for them. They can expand effortlessly and easily anywhere. So when someone is chanting Hare Krishna and they like to hear it, they will come, even though that person is chanting by themselves. And then Prabhupada said, you're not alone. The demigods are there with you.
Jai.
And also in the prayer, keep Jaya Jaya Gaura Chaudhary, the Gaur Arti.
Yes.
It describes how the demigods headed by Lord, I forget how exactly the verse goes, but the demigods headed by Lord Chaitanya or whatever come to this arti ceremony. It's there in the text. I've forgotten it right now.
Yeah, it's saying, the demigod, what's it? Brahma. The Brahma is watching the arati of Lord Gaurachandra, something like this, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then you said
so we have to understand that in this Istagosti, because of what it is, Krishna and the coward boys show up, and they're there, and they sit with us. And if we are tolerant, and if we are good-hearted, and if we are receptive, we can begin to feel their presence in the Istagosti.
Okay. Let's see who joined. 1 second. Okay, we got K.R. Bliss joining us.
Who?
Then K.R. Bliss.
Okay, that sounds blissful.
Okay, let's see here. So here you say that it was his intention that the process of attending these communicative meetings continue into perpetuity as vital part of the spiritual advancement of his disciples. So that means, whenever there's some type of doubt, or monthly or a weekly or whatever system they have set up to keep a healthy environment at the center temple, where if there's any issues, it's talked amongst the devotees, right?
Yes, as equals.
As equals, as spirit souls.
Can you imagine how many gurus would not have fallen down if they could have sat in the midst of brahmacharis who joined last week, as well as strangers who walked in off the street and began to weep over how they were feeling lust for women or desire for this, that, and the other thing?
Right.
If they could have confessed. But instead, they have to keep this rigid image for themselves and others, and then they fall down completely.
Yeah. That's a very good point. If these people who went away or fell down, if they were able to communicate.
And that's sannyasis, but what about brahmacharis?
Yeah.
What about anyone that has a shred of doubt?
Yeah.
That's the place to express it. In Istagosti, I think, didn't I, that Istagosti is an arena where you can express doubt. And if you can express doubt in Istagosti, then your doubts will be answered by those who know the truthful answer. And I think we can assume that in any temple room, if the average brahmachari has some big doubt, that there will be somebody there who can actually answer him 100% authentically. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But this is no longer being done in the higher ups and the lower downs, They have a Catholic church. Yeah.
I remember I used to see Istagostis at New Dorka in Los Angeles.
Right.
And Savas would be standing there and everybody else would be sitting down. And Istagosti would basically be indoctrination by Savas.
Wow. Okay. Any question, Jagannath Das Prabhu, or any comments, realizations, Rupa Manjari, you yourself also?
And try to go deep in your own heart to see what that would mean, because we want this platform of the League for 10K. We are claiming that this is an Istagosti. Therefore, you can express everything heartfeltly, because the jiva is the source of every conscious thing. And it becomes tangled and polluted by association with the mind and the body. But if we withdraw it from the mind and the body in Istagosti, then we can express ourselves. And then when we finish Istagosti, we'll be stronger in our relationship to our sadhana, etc. Okay?
Jai. Jagannath Das Prabhu, can you read the second paragraph, Prabhu? This one here?
Although he advised us to create temples and ashrams that were based on a strict hierarchy of authority, such as is found in a military academy, he nonetheless requested that we simultaneously institute a process that would create an arena in which doubts could be openly expressed. The opportunity to express doubt in an Ishtagoshti context is an indispensable and vital component of the process by which Vaishnavas reveal their minds to other Vaishnavas.
Right. So, for example, I'll bring an example here. Srila Prabhupada advised you, Narayan Prabhu, to, even though there was some discrepancy in the behavior of the temple president, I think at that time it was Brahmananda, right? He said you still have to follow his instructions. You know.
Well, that's in the that's after Istagosti is over or before Istagosti begins.
Ah, okay, I see.
That's what you give up to go into Istagosti. You see, that structure, that rules, that regulations, they can be all given up to go into Istagosti.
In other words, in Istagosti, everybody's equal, but outside of Istagosti, everybody has their respective role.
Acha, excellent. Okay, that makes sense.
And it says that in the beginning of this, that somebody is a big temple president, he's this, he's that, he's, you know, you can imagine all the rules are in the temple where the brahmacharis automatically say, oh yes, Prabhu, I will obey you, Prabhu. And it's Istagosti, that brahmachari is equal to the person that he grovels in front of during the day.
Right. Yeah, this type of open communication based on Guru Sadhu Shastra is no longer being communicated. At least I have not come across it in my past.
No, because there's no time that
that
the role is put down. There's no time that the you know, it's sort of like each person is like a caterpillar all wrapped up in silk, you know. There's no time for anyone to just let go and be themselves.
Yeah, it creates a lot of problems.
So if somebody has some secret desire or secret attitude or secret agenda, he should be able to speak it out in Istagosti. When he does, then he'll get support from everyone else, because everyone else said, if that guy can confess that he's got this hots for women or something, well, then I can express that I have a yearning to eat a piece of fish. Or somebody else can say, I have this other feeling, which, you know what I mean? People can come up with their dirty little secrets in Istagosti. But at the end of Istagosti, these matters are meant to be resolved.
Yes, true.
Just like Narayan is a senior disciple of Prabhupada, but in this forum, he's our equal.
Yes.
Jai. Excellent, Rupa. Observation and insight. Okay. Let me read the third paragraph. In the sanctuary of an Ishtagoshti meeting, there is no question of rank. Yes, we discussed that. Whatever authority one has been granted in order to function in a management or political capacity within ISKCON must be understood to be irrelevant to one's spiritual advancement and be dropped before the session of Ishtagoshti can begin. Yeah. Like the round table of the legendary King Arthur, Ishtagoshti establishes a sense of mystical equality, which creates a climate in which openness and humility can grow. With such a group meets on a plenary level, open and frankly discussing both spiritual and personal issues, the tendency to retain such personal flaws as insincerity and duplicity are reduced almost to nil. What do you mean by this last sentence? When such a group meets on a plenary level, openly and frankly discussing both spiritual and personal issues, the tendency Oh, scriptural, discussing scriptural and personal issues. The tendency to retain such personal flaws as insincerity and duplicity are reduced almost to nil. Okay.
That's because when a person is in istagosti, they gradually learn to let go of their defense mechanisms.
Okay.
Everybody, everywhere has a defense mechanism. Now we can ask ourselves, is there something really wonderful about defense mechanisms that we have to maintain to survive? And when we join ISKCON, should we make our defense mechanisms even stronger so that we can get further ahead in some sort of mystical, some sort of mystical
defense mechanism. Okay.
illusion of spiritual advancement? Or should we open our hearts and speak openly? Now, one person can't do that by themselves, and everybody else retain their stiff upper lip. Right?
What? What did you say? One person can what?
It can't be done with one person fully confessing with their heart and everybody else sitting there with an attitude of superiority.
Okay.
It has to be met on the same level by everybody. If they don't, then what you end up is a society of slaves run by a society of masters. Is it not?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the whole this is a very lofty goal. And the Istagosta that wrote that meeting, wrote that paper for, was an incredibly lofty meeting. It was held in the Masonic Hall. We rented the entire Masonic Hall next to the temple. And I might add that Savas organized some sort of a program to prevent the ISKCON devotees from going over to our meeting.
Huh.
So you can see what we were up against.
Wow.
We were up against the very thing that we're saying we need to relinquish, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, the whole temple was hundreds of devotees. A lot of them snuck over anyhow, because there was some extraordinarily good Goranga potatoes cooked by me.
Acha.
And they were mind-boggling. I cooked I think 30 big aluminum trays,
Oh wow.
trays of them, and they were all consumed down to the last morsel.
Making me hungry.
Yeah. but if you stop to think of it, the very thing that we were fighting for in terms of openness, what this paper describes is the Gostis for, the very thing we were fighting for, Savas, who's a good man, he's a good person, generally speaking, made it impossible, tried to make it impossible for any devotees to go over there.
Wow. Okay, so let me. Anything else, Prabhu?
The simple reason was Prabhupada was at the center.
Oh, the gurus were the GBC appointed gurus were not. That's why.
Exactly. And so what happened is that I made the Istagosti I designed to be a circle.
Yes.
Well, circle of coward boys. So everyone sat in that beautiful, stately, very elegant Masonic hall on the floor in a circle. And in the center, I had the same picture of Prabhupada on 3 panels that were joined together, so it became like triangular,
Yes.
So everyone had an equal view of Srila Prabhupada who was sitting in the room.
Very nice.
And that is what sort of thing is what completely rattled their cages, because there wasn't a single bogus guru included. And this is way back at the beginning.
Okay, let's continue our reading.
Okay.
So anyone who has any questions, comments, realizations, doubts, they can express it in the chat or express it in the WhatsApp group or personally send it to me if they're watching live, and we'll read it out aloud and discuss it and come to a resolution or realization.
Yeah, Yasota and Paranjan were there, and they tried to take the whole thing over and turn it into their thing, you know what I mean?
A rhythmic
It had
meeting.
nothing to do with organizing it, but they tried to turn it over. But I had made that whole Istagosi in favor of Krishna Kant doing his Back to Prabhupada magazine.
Oh,
And actually, I paid for his first published copy, and myself, Shakuntala, and Narottam, my son, wrote articles for it,
Very
major
nice.
articles. So
I
that's
love
what
that.
we were trying to do before it became apparent that Krishna Kant actually cut himself off from us afterwards.
okay. Let's see who's here.
He had another agenda, and it wasn't us.
Okay, KR Bliss, whoever this person is. Are you hearing, Prabhu? Where are you hearing from?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. We can hear you. Jai, welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, it's you, Prabhu. Yes, we talked yesterday, huh?
That's right.
Okay, welcome.
All good.
We were reading a paper called Ishtagoshti, and we had a discussion yesterday.
And you might mention that the purpose of reading this Istagosi is our Zoom call, at least in principle, is meant to be an Istagosti, a place where everyone is spirit, soul, meaning equal to each other, because we are all equally part and parcel of Krishna.
Jai. Okay. I muted you, Kara Bliss, because you're moving and it creates unnecessary noise and it gets broadcasted. So feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to say anything or make a comment, ask a question, or share a realization, Prabhu. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. You can unmute yourself and then speak. Okay. He raised his hand, so you can, first of all, you have to unmute yourself before you speak. Okay. Click unmute. Ask to unmute. Okay. He dropped his hand, so let's see here. Where are we? First, second,
Third paragraph in the sanctuary. Is that it?
No, we read this part in the sanctuary of this. Yes.
Yes. Fourth then.
This paragraph. Jagannath Prabhu, can you read it since the
Since the
Read
productive
what?
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Since the productive result of the Ishtagoshti process is vital to the deliverance of inhabitants of this planet during the next 10,000 years, compromising the golden age of Kali, it can be understood that higher beings, such as demigods, great yogis, as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, monitor such meetings and extend their blessings to the successful outcome of the issues discussed.
Jai. This is wonderful because, for example, we wanted at one time to set up a temple here in ISKCON temple, but there was no meetings to discuss all the issues. You know, they just have a top-down system where they dictate to you, okay, this is how we want to do it. And this is one of the reasons why it has never been successful, because there was no open-ended discussion to address doubts, concerns of the devotees. For example, I had some doubts about, how the management should be set up, and I still do to this day. If they are wanting to set up a temple, then I would raise these questionable doubts I have. like the direction of management, and then how Prabhupada wanted the temples to be
Managed.
individually incorporated locally by the local temple leaders, meaning temple president, congregation members. They are the main authority, and the role of the GBC would be to just oversee and help guide. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, we could have had like 10 temples in Sacramento. It's we have enough manpower and enough people that would be very interested to give a donation for a temple.
Technically, you could have a temple in everybody's apartment.
Yes.
In other words, if a person had an apartment or a house, he could incorporate that as an ISKCON temple, and then invite the neighbors, so the neighbors could come. The way Prabhupada did it was, in the beginning of a temple like that sort of really, really grassroots temple, it would start out that Wednesday there would be a class, and then Sunday there'd be a feast. So that the person whose temple it was would invite people to a class on the Bhagavad-Gita or Bhagavatam or whatever, and they would study, and then after that, Prabhupada would arrange to distribute fruit, either fresh fruits or dry fruits usually. And then on the Sunday feast, people were invited to come to celebrate together, and whoever was in charge of the temple would cook a simple feast. It doesn't have to be very opulent at all. And you didn't have to have a big fancy altar with deities. You could have an overturned cardboard box covered with a cloth with a picture of Lord Chaitanya and a picture of Prabhupada, a picture of Lord Krishna on it. And as things developed, if people were interested in everything, because their interest would begin from the books and the classes, not from the opulence or the belonging to a big temple or something. And as they began to enthuse themselves and they began to develop some belief around the teaching that is being taught by the person whose apartment it is, they will start to call for more and more improvements until they do have deities. That's what we did in Detroit. We ended up with a set of large Jagannath deities that I carved, and an altar and a place for Prabhupads to sit, a Vyasa-san for Prabhupada, stuff like that. And that was all came out of the fact that they had all come to the point of wanting that. But they started out just being a bunch of pre-med students wandering around in karmi clothes in an apartment, in a house, a 4-story house. Anyhow, that's that. Okay.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Prabhus? We're going to go on. Nothing? Okay. Let's continue. Okay, I think we're here. The process of Ishtagoshti promotes the development of spiritual consciousness at the grassroots level so that the urgent message of Lord Chaitanya can be successfully instituted into every home and dwelling, spread to every town and village. The process cannot be taught in large classroom situations to a passive student body, nor by blindly and unquestioningly following ambitious and oligarchical leaders. Oligarchical means anyone?
Oligarchy, like a dictatorship.
Acha. A true Vaishnava society can never be achieved until each and every disciple of Srila Prabhupada is well versed in the conclusion of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, and has built a high level of individual commitment through the introspective process of personal realization. Jai, that's wonderfully put. Yeah.
What was wonderfully put?
This last part, a true Vaishnava society can never be achieved until each and every disciple of Srila Prabhupada is well versed in the conclusions of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, and has built a high level of individual commitment through the introspective process of personal realization.
Yeah, this is all food or fodder for Istagosti.
Yeah. Well, as we progress, at least in my own spiritual life, I haphazardly kind of came in contact with it in 2008. And when I compare now, there's a whole deal of
Yeah,
individual commitment through introspection process of personal realization. So if there's no introspection and no scope of personal realization and discussion of the personal realization based on Srila Prabhupada's Vani, Shastra and Sadhu, Srila Prabhupada, and then discussion among devotees like Narayana Prabhu Rupa and other Srila Prabhupada disciples, my understanding wouldn't be as it is now. Unfortunately, the ISKCON so-called criminal GBC does not give this freedom of thought or introspection process to each and individual person who joins ISKCON. They're bottle fed, realizations, and they're taught things that is not talked about in Srila Prabhupada's books. They're not given the field of growth, to explore and ask questions to the management, right?
Yeah,
And-
they control the congregations.
Yeah, they control the congregations very strictly, and these. Yes, Prabhu.
but you can see that by the standard of Istagosti, you don't control the congregations. You work all together. And the
Yes,
congregation recognizes the need for a temple president, recognizes the need for a temple commander, and works with them. But during Istagosti, everybody puts their weapons down at the door and sits and lets their heart out as much as how much? Well, as much as they can.
right.
That's how it's supposed to be, Narayan, not how it necessarily is.
Well, it is if Istagosti is successful. It's not if Istagosti is not successful.
Yeah.
Jai. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about today, that a lot of my personal, introspection and personal realizations have been confirmed by our Ishtagoshti meetings, and to a very, high level, much more than an ordinary person surrendering to this so-called appointed legal gurus,
Yeah.
That's
And now,
really great.
concerning Istagosti, suppose you have a temple that does Istagosti. Will that magically produce the right effect? Or will it be something that must be developed over a period of time? And as each Istagosti takes place, people become a little bit more comfortable with releasing their doubts and fears.
Yeah, it's a gradual process.
You can't expect it to happen all at one time, because people have to, if one person confesses everything, everybody said, good, now let's pounce on him.
Right.
Just like in the playground. A playground at a school could be called an Istagosti if you wanted to. But what happens there is that people form into gangs and form into power groups and do all sorts of things to put each other down and under and other people on top. So that's because Krishna is missing. And it's also because people don't see themselves as the jiva, which is what Istagosti is all about, being the spirit soul. So if they did, then the school ground could become a very nice temple mood. But instead it isn't.
Yeah. And nor you comment here in the third or second sentence, this process cannot be taught in large classroom situations to a passive student, nor by blindly and unquestioningly following ambitious and oligarchical leaders, you know. So just like Rupert said just a minute ago, that they're taught, you know, what to say and think.
You're right.
And we don't want passive students. We want active students. Where Prabhupada was saying in the letter to Karandra, Krishna consciousness is teaching people to be independently thoughtful in all areas of knowledge, or not for making bureaucracy, right? The
Right.
letter. So that is a healthy environment for progressing in Krishna consciousness, because, you know, not everyone is on the same level of realization, right? Someone may be like, you know, maybe more advanced. The children might be much more advanced than the parents.
That can happen.
Yeah.
And there's so many parents that say, oh, my child said such a thing, and they just cherish it for their whole life.
Yeah. Recently, when Bir Krishna gave initiation to these wonderful children who have been devotees since birth, I suggested, you know, they be given ample scope to grow, you know, by encouraging them to be temple presidents, future temple presidents, and then, you know, having a setup where they can thrive, you know, by leading the next generation of students and being ideal Vaishnavas. You know, Bir Krishna just laughed it away, you know. I'm like, why are you laughing? You know, you're initiating this wonderful young man who's been trained up from beginning. You know, their parents are very strict devotees. He's chanting 16 rounds. He's been doing Sankirtan since, you know, 3 or 4 years old. So now he's taken initiation, but now I see him, you know, I feel sorry for this devotee in one way, because he has taken initiation and chanting, but he isn't given the facility to grow and thrive.
Exactly.
That's my...
There's like no place for him.
Rupa, what did you say?
There's no place for him.
Yes, there's no place for him. Exactly.
And Bir Krishna responds by laughing.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else like to share their realizations? Prabhus, go ahead. Rupa, anything? Okay. Okay, so we're at the last paragraph. Yes, Rupa.
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a kind of simple question.
Sure.
What is the hard definition of a Vaishnava?
Well, let's give everyone a Narayan Prabhu. You heard the question. Can you elaborate? Then we'll go.
A Vaishnava, simply put, is a person who worships Vishnu. Now, put it as a pure, in its strictest and most elevated and austere definition of a Vaishnava, he is a person who is a resident of Krishna Loka, like Prabhupada, who comes down to deliver the fallen souls.
Excellent. And Uttama
of Vishnu.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Is that clear? K.R. Bliss, Prabhu?
Crystal.
Excellent. Yes. As you read Prabhupada's books, you'll get an understanding of what it means to be a Vaishnava.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Welcome, Shreya. Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. I'm working on.
Oh, Shreya, my goodness. You won our hearts over in the first half a dozen sessions we had, and we became completely swept away by you, and then you vanished. Oh no, you should vanish.
Well, she hasn't vanished.
That has a reason. That has a reason, Prabhu. When I joined the Istagoshi meetings, it was because I had so many questions, and I was feeling overwhelmed because there were so many answers I was getting. And then at one point in time, I felt a complete disconnection. I couldn't connect back because there was chaos in my head, and I was trying to get answers. I was not able to progress.
Well, we are at fault. It's our fault then, because we should have been able to give you the answers.
No, it wasn't your fault. It was about how I understood or how I perceived the things to be, which made the difference. Because what I always have understood by attending the sessions here is that you all try to give the best answers possible to all our doubts. And this is a constant seeking. It's not like, you just give a one straightforward answer and yes, we are realized. No, it's not about getting answers. It's about understanding the answer and realizing the true depth into it, which matters. That's what took me so much time. And the reason I keep popping in every now and then is because I know it is here that I find a lot of peace. I know this is where I get direction. Sometimes there is disagreement with you, there is disagreement with what is being said, talked about, maybe the methods,
Well,
maybe
if
the
there's
rules.
ever a disagreement, then you should open your heart, express that disagreement, and see what is the conclusion being brought from the Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu.
I mean, I can't even argue my point there, even if I disagreed with you. It just doesn't sit. That's all. So how would I even bring it up? For example, you say something and I don't get it. So I just can say I don't get it, and I do see that there is a whole lot of effort going into explaining what it is. But still, I don't get it. It's just the time I see, Prabhu, which matters for each individual, because I know it is a struggle, it is difficult, because all of us are caught up in the mind activity. The moment we realize that it is not about the mind and it is not about the illusionary world that we get caught up in, that is in real, that is when we get connected back to the Krishna consciousness. Because otherwise we're still going in everything that Maya can play around with us. I have two things to discuss with you today, if that's okay.
Good, sure. And we're in the middle of a session based on a paper for Istagosti.
Mm-hmm.
Which did you have a chance to read the paper?
Not the entire paper, just this last bit that.
Okay, but if you can you, is it still up? Can you see it? If you can see it, because the exact thing you're talking about is the topic of Istagosti, where
Yes.
you need to be safe, feel safe to express your heart's feelings and your ideas.
Yes, Prabhu. I did hear that part when Ronald Prabhu was talking about his personal experience since 2008. So yes, Ronald Prabhu, if you can please share this on the group, that would be really good. I can go through it.
Sure.
I don't want to eat up everybody's time there. So yeah, this is definitely very important. Ishtagoshti always made sense to me, and I personally believe and I agree with you that it is not a classroom training that is what a seeker needs, because in a group you just cannot open up and speak up, but here we can.
Istagosti is, in simplest terms, Istagosti, we're all jivas, right? We're all parts and parcels of Krishna. We're all infinitesimal parts and parcels of Krishna. When we get together, we come together, but we bring our cloaks of male, female, older, younger, all sorts of statuses with us. And in Istagosti is the opportunity to let those diminish or even disappear entirely, so that we can speak to one another in the pure tone of Jiva.
Okay,
Right.
sure, Prabhu. You wanted to make some comments or questions regarding some things you had in mind. So you're welcome to
No,
express
I thought
this.
I would just give her a little introduction so that she could start out with it. So go ahead.
Right. So, Prabhu, I have found new meanings by reading the Bhagavad-Gita. I mean, initially when I read it, it probably was too shallow, and I felt I know it in all. But no, again, when I go back to reading it, it gives me new perspective to life and things. So, if we can just pull up the Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2.1, the first verse.
Okay, let me do that. 1 second. chapter 2,
Are we
verse 1.
talking
Okay.
Prabhupada's
Yeah.
Bhagavad-Gita? We're talking Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita as it is?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I don't like any other Bhagavad-Gita because I'm so connected with Prabhupada's words. Every time I read it, it makes so much sense. It's so easy to understand. But yeah, realizing the truth behind it takes time.
Okay, 1 second here. I found the verse, 2 verse 1. 1 second, here we go. Do you want to chant Sanskrit and then read the translation and purport, or how do you want to take, you want to express whatever you want to do?
I think we'll just go with the translation. I'm not familiar with
Okay,
the
sure, go ahead. You
Sanskrit.
can read it and then ask your questions or realizations.
Okay. So, Bhagavad Gita 2.1, Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion and very sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke the following words. Material, just a second, Prabhu.
Sure.
Okay. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. This is what struck me a lot. Realizing the real self is where we all miss out because we get caught up in the rituals, the practices, and we never work towards realizing the real self. And that is nothing but the signs of ignorance. And how is a person going to find light if he's going to walk around holding a torch in a dark room? In a dark room, if a person is holding a torch and walking around, how is he ever going to see darkness? It's not possible. So what I'm trying to say is we just get caught up in everything and we are so ignorant about the real self. In the last few days, what has happened with me is I have been able to see the real self and I don't get caught up in all the material compassion, lamentation, and tears. And it gives me so much peace at heart because I'm not disturbed by the activity of the Maya, which is the activity of the mind. But my question with this part is, why is Prabhu, don't get me wrong, don't judge me based on this question. It's been bothering me for quite.
This is Istigosi. We're not here to judge anybody.
Okay, so I know we all talk about being in Krishna conscious, having to reach Krishna. I don't understand. We are servants. We need to serve the Lord. We need to do everything to please Krishna. Why would Krishna want us to do all of that?
Is that a question or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand why Krishna would want any jiva to strive to be a servant, or because we see that Krishna blesses us as the father, we see that Krishna blesses us as the beloved, he's there as a child, he's there in every different form. So why is it that Krishna would want any one of us to be struggling to please him? I understand the concept where we say Krishna is present where there is bhakti, where a person is completely devoted. But why would Krishna want us to do that?
Now, Ryan Prabhu, does everyone understand the question Shreya Prabhu is asking? She's saying that.
Ramachandra, could you repeat the question in such a way that I can clearly understand it?
She's asking if Krishna is already providing everything to all the living entities, why is he wanting us to serve him? Is that it? If I'm understanding it correctly, or you can fine tune what I've said, Shreya?
Okay. There are two ways of looking at it.
Okay.
One way is Krishna's perspective,
Yes.
where he says, surrender everything to me. You're a karma yogi, so you do your activity, but don't worry about the fruits. And then in Gnana Yoga, he says you realize the self because you don't have to be disturbed by the mind activity. In Bhakti Yoga, he says your duty is all about, serving the Lord, being the servant of the Lord, which is the highest, most way of reaching Krishna. So these are the different ways to reach Krishna. But why does he want every jiva to do that? That is my question. Okay, from a devotee's perspective, these are the ways which we are struggling to find the best suited method to reach Krishna. All of that is fine from the devotee's perspective. But why does Krishna want us to do that? That's my question.
Well, isn't it sort of clear that each jiva is equal to each other jiva, right? We're never equal to Krishna because he is the source of all jivas, but we're equal to each other. But there are distinctions based upon our previous lives and our karma, correct?
Okay, like yes.
You and I are equal to each other, but you have a specific woman's body, I have a specific man's body. They cannot be considered to be the same, correct?
Right.
So who has a woman's body has to act according to her dharma, and who has a man's body must go according to his dharma.
I want to interrupt you here, Prabhu.
Okay.
So when we talk about dharma, here Arjuna is told he's a kshatriya, he needs to fight. I get that. And what I kept thinking is my dharma as a woman, of course, I get it. Then comes being the daughter of my parents. I have my responsibility and duty towards my parents. Then I become somebody's wife, so my duty as a wife. And then I become a mother, my duty as a mother. I'm a friend to somebody, my duty as a friend. So these are all the responsibilities and duties which we call dharma, right? Because
they're different branches of dharma.
Okay.
Being married is a very powerful dharmic connection. Having a child within marriage is a very powerful dharmic connection. But saying hello to your friend and giving her a galabjavan is a dharmic connection, but not as powerful as having a child.
Okay.
In other words, each dharmic thing that we do has a different potency in terms of its power. And that's what's going on in the Bhagavad-Gita. Arjuna is being put into the impossible situation of having to choose to kill
his own people,
his beloved relatives. He loves them. He was growing up with them. They all associated with each other.
This is where I get stuck. Why would Krishna want us to do that? Okay, because they were following the path of adharma. They were doing the the ugly acts. They were not following the right path, and that's why he says you must establish dharma, and so you need to do all of this in context of the Bhagavad-Gita, the Kurukshetra, those times, that story. It makes sense, but how do we relate it to our lives today?
Well, ultimately, we have to see that everything we do has a big dharma and also many small dharmas. And we have to understand them according to our particular birth, right? Now, in terms of understanding the Bhagavad-Gita, it's an astonishing story because the Pandavas, the kingdom actually belongs to the Pandavas, and it was stolen by the Kurus.
Mm.
And the Kurus established that they had the Dharma to do that, but they actually didn't, because they stole it from the Pandavas. If they didn't steal it from the Pandavas, then why did they put the Pandavas into a house of lac and try to burn them up? Why did they try to kill them in so many contexts? It just went on for a long time. The Pandavas, the Kurus could have said, this is your kingdom, take it and we will work with you. But no, they wanted to be blindly, and Dhritarashtra was literally blind. We want to blindly control you and control the kingdom. And if you get in the way, we have to kill you. That's not the way you treat the owner, and it's certainly not the way you treat your beloved relatives. So you see that what the Pandavas, the Kurus were acting adharmically or against Dharma. That's the simple.
Can I add an idea on that or a comment?
Sure, Prabhu, go ahead. Yes.
All right. I guess starting with the word service is that it sounds like that the person that asked that question is feeling that serving somebody is, I mean, obviously it's difficult, but maybe not something that you would want to do. Well, I think that whatever service truly is for Krishna, there's so many ways to serve God that there's no way for a human being to even fathom all the different things that you could do to actually serve him. So for me personally, I was thinking about playing catch with the ball. I mean, that's one way to serve, like in tennis, right? You serve a ball, you serve or a racquetball, you started off by throwing the ball up and then you hit it. You're serving the ball to another person. You're playing catch with somebody. You are passing them something, an object, a piece of data. You're doing it in love. Yeah, of course, it could be serving Krishna a banana or a piece of fruit, or serving him devotion from your heart. But there's a lot of ways that a man
you're
or
getting
woman
closer. When you serve with devotion from your heart, how do you establish that you should serve Krishna at all in any way?
Well,
And
I think
my question is also, why should
you have to be able to see somebody, or in one way of looking at it, you have to be able to see your friend to throw your friend a ball. Well, none of us that I know of has a direct personal relationship with Krishna in his 100% form. So we have to look towards our parent or our friend or our lover, or, you know, there's all the different relationships that we have with human beings who we're supposed to look at as Krishna. So when I throw the ball to my son, I'm not just throwing it to my son, I'm also throwing it to Krishna. Now, he might not throw it back. He might run away.
No, you're not throwing it to Krishna. You're throwing it within Krishna's kingdom. You see, you're in the material world where things are relative, and the relativity is expressed by throwing a ball. If you throw a ball in the material world, it's subject to the laws of nature. It's subject to the law of gravity. It's subject to laws of attraction. It's subject to all sorts of material laws, correct? It has nothing to do with Krishna.
How do you rectify, or how do you?
I want to make a comment here, Prabhu.
How do you look at it as far as somewhere in the Bhagavad-Gita it talks about, I think it's called paramatma or something, that he's in your heart, that he's situated in everyone's heart. So there's a picture.
He guides everyone to fulfill their own desires. And he will also guide you when your desire is to serve Krishna. But nobody thinks like that. Everybody's out for themselves, and they are asking and begging God, Paramatma, to give them the power to prevail in the marketplace, prevail in the war, prevail in so many situations, to prevail as husband of the wife and family. I mean, everyone wants to prevail.
I think I want to make a comment here, Prabhu.
Yeah, no.
Looks like I found my answer.
Shreya, I think we need to address your point more directly. If you can forgive us, Prabhu. Because
I think I found the answer there, but I'm not too sure if that is the answer. So it's all into deep contemplation that I'll have to work on and then realize. So just now, the other Prabhu who spoke about the Paramatma and, about the ball and catching the ball and serving the ball. Here's where I think I was struggling. Every time we want to serve the Lord, and let's say I as a mother want to serve my son and I want to see Krishna in him, it is only a one-way thing where I will be seeing Krishna in my son. But because we are caught up...
Your son is not Krishna.
Yeah, but he is a part and parcel of the Lord. So if
Yeah,
I
well, so
want
are
to see
you.
Krishna and
But so are you, right?
yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, Prabhu, because we are trying to serve the Lord, and like the other Prabhu said, we don't have the other side actually, responding or reacting to us. We just don't know what's happening. So even if I wanted to serve by looking at my son as Krishna in a childhood form, if I want to serve my father as looking at him as Krishna.
That we can never do. We can never
Yeah.
look at, I cannot look at my son.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's what I wanted to
Krishna.
say.
That
Because
is one of the greatest mistakes that people make, and
Yeah.
it prevents them from ever becoming devotees.
Yeah, because every time I kept trying to look at Krishna in each one that I'm interacting with on a day-to-day basis, I get hurt because they do not respond like Krishna. They are
Well,
not,
they're not Krishna. Why should you see
exactly.
Krishna when Krishna's not
Yeah.
there?
Well,
Right.
can I add to that, please? Right there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's not Krishna is there, but he's situated silently in everybody's heart. So he's watching what's happening, but he's not going to choose for somebody to reciprocate in love.
Yes.
And he does not become the flesh and blood person that you're dealing with.
Right.
Okay, but
Flesh and
if
blood
you do
person,
Krishna's will, if you do Krishna's will,
there's the illusion of being, the form we take on is made of flesh, pus, blood, stool, and urine. What we could just say flesh and blood body. That flesh and blood body is not Krishna, and it will never be Krishna. It will never resemble Krishna. But we can
So
take
now
the
if I have
body
to,
and use it as a vehicle for serving Krishna.
so where is Krishna for me to serve? If we are talking about serving the idols and taking care of the idols, don't we have a live idol walking around us in the form of Krishna? So does it mean I just serve the people around in the belief that Krishna is hidden in each of them, but do not get affected by what
yes.
they give back? Is that what
Krishna is in the heart of every living being. So,
okay.
And also each living being is part and parcel of Krishna. But part and parcel is infinitesimally small, not the entire Krishna. So if you see someone, you can say this person is part and parcel. What?
I get that part. I get the part where you've always told that we are all the the tiniest part of the Supreme Soul. So I get that. So my thing is, I'm mostly worried about my interaction with the rest of the world and how do I see Krishna? Where do I serve him? And why would he want me to do that? That's my question.
We can't approach life by wanting to see Krishna. That is completely forbidden to the person who worships Krishna. We cannot approach life trying to see Krishna. We can approach life wanting to serve Krishna, even though we cannot see him. Like if you want to see Krishna, the closest you're going to get is a picture of Krishna or a deity on your altar. You can see that deity on the altar. That deity is made of marble, but by desire, your desire, Krishna can enter into the marble, so you can see Krishna in that threefold bending form playing flute on your altar. But we cannot start seeing Krishna in the playgrounds, and we can't. That is called sahaja, and it is the destruction of your devotional life, unfortunately.
So how do we, why would we have to do that? Like,
why what?
Why would Krishna want us to serve him?
I can't hear it. Understand?
Why would Krishna want us to serve him?
Krishna doesn't want us to serve him. Krishna is completely Atma Rama. He's completely satisfied himself. He does not have any desire for us to serve him. But when we hear about Krishna, we may develop a desire to serve Krishna, not that Krishna wants us to serve him. You see? Krishna is autonomous. He's as independent gets. So he doesn't need us to worship him, and he doesn't need us to serve him. We need to serve Krishna. That is the tricky part. We ourselves are starving for the association of Krishna, but we won't get it because Krishna wants us to serve him, or Krishna wants to pop up in this child or that child. It's not the way it works. We have to develop the sadhana bhakti. In other words, if you have a deity, then you worship it with different things, incense and ghee lamp and things like that, water, conch. You serve the deity with these different things in order to attract the deity to you. But it's not that the deity wants you to do anything. He's completely independent. Why should he care if you worship him or not? You see, you have the power to worship him because you're part and parcel of Krishna. The jiva is an infinitesimal part of Krishna. That's what we're in now, is this Gosti, where we've been discussing how the jiva is, how all the jivas can come together as equals, because we are equals. No jiva or part and parcel of Krishna is greater than any other part and parcel of Krishna. That's been our discussion for this evening. So because the jiva is, one jiva is not greater than the other jiva, then we can embrace one another as equals. I am part and parcel of Krishna. You are part and parcel of Krishna. He is part and parcel of Krishna. She is part and parcel of Krishna. So we can come together in the association knowing that. And that will give us the power to make spiritual advancement. But if we come in thinking we know something, or thinking we have an attitude, or that we have some means of conquering over material nature, that's not going to work. It's just simply going to slow the process down, or even stop it altogether. Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhu. I think I kind of understand it in a slightly
Yeah. I have a
way.
feeling that you are in discussions with people that think in the way that you're expressing. And I'm suggesting quite humbly that it's better if you don't. If you want to associate with us, we're here to give you our association to help you become a surrendered servant of Krishna and develop your form of bliss, knowledge, and eternity, Satchidananda form. That's what we can help you do in Istagosti and in this League for 10K. Whoever it is you've been talking to has been leading you in weird directions, and unless you're really fond of weird directions, it won't do you much good.
No, I'll be honest with you. I am not following anybody else. I am just trying to find answers to my questions. And yes, I do talk to them.
I don't think you could possibly have come up with what you said all by yourself.
Right, Prabhu, absolutely. Because I am trying to find answers. Like I said, I do talk to a lot of people about spiritual.
Yeah, sure, of course, and they give you various ideas, but what we say is Vaishnavism. Most of what you were describing is called sahajya, or sentimental.
What is that?
Sahajya means sentimental understanding, not spiritual understanding.
Sentimental, did you say?
Sahajya.
And that is
sentimental.
Ramachandra Prabhu. Ramachandra?
Yes, I'm listening here to the conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you look up the definition of sahajya?
Sahajya, Prabhupada says people who take Krishna consciousness or spiritual realization to be very cheap. So I'll look it up right now. 1 second.
Look it up and see what Prabhupada says. Because it's dangerous. Shraya, we're experiencing you as being so simple and so sincere and so devoted to Prabhupada and so devoid of any mental or intellectual or so-called connection to Krishna. And now you're sounding a bit different. We would like to say we liked you the way you were.
Prabhu, like I said, I don't want to be judged based on what I say, because I am looking at the Bhagavad-Gita being referred by different streams. And what I see is each of them have picked up their own path to the self-realization. Different people are following different things. And I don't get
Each
caught
and
up
every
in
person
others.
follows a different path.
Right. But I keep coming back here. Why? Because I know I connect better here. So that's what I want to tell you. Maybe I do have discussions with others, and I'm only trying to find out if they have any better answer. And I don't see that. That is why I'm telling you or asking you these
Well,
questions.
do you think that the Bhagavad Gita has a good answer?
Yes, the Bhagavad
Good.
Gita has a good answer. Different people pick different parts of the Bhagavad Gita and make their own interpretations. I'm more concerned
That
about
is
how I
completely
understand.
that is forbidden. No one
Yes.
can interpret the Shastra. Nobody can interpret the Bhagavad Gita. If they do that, then they're criminals in terms of spiritual life.
Yeah, because of course it is already said. So that is why I had this question. When Krishna says, you have to surrender everything to me, that means he's asking us to surrender to him. And what I understand by surrendering is it is not about, me physically putting my head on to the foot of the idol. It's not about, the external aspect. It's about the internal surrendering which
Well, it means surrendering in every dimension.
yeah. So
Why one and not the other?
it's the belief that no matter what I encounter in life, Krishna is there to protect me. And this is my trust in him. It is that no matter who I talk to, what I talk to, how long or how far I get driven by other things, I know he will put me back into check because I trust Krishna and nobody else. That's how
Yes,
I
we
I
need to
sometimes.
trust Krishna, but we shouldn't feel that we can control Krishna or control our relationship with Krishna. Krishna is God, and we are not.
Okay.
Is that
So
okay?
when you say controlling, yes, when you say controlling our relationship with Krishna, can you elaborate that? I think that's where
You could not even take a single breath if Krishna did not make it possible for you to breathe.
correct.
So we are so chirpy about Well, we cannot be that chirpy, because we should take seriously that Krishna is the cause of all causes, and that is very big. It's not a very tiny thing. It's not a detail to be chatted about amongst girlfriends or something of that sort. Rupa Manjari, what would you say?
Let's see.
This is our beloved Shreya.
Yeah. Serving Krishna is our dharma. If we want to be truly happy, happiness exists in a different world, in the spiritual world. And all of our obligations here are no replacement for that. So we serve Krishna because we want to again see Krishna. We want to know Krishna again and to serve him personally again. And that's why we serve and render service.
And we are part and parcel of Krishna. We are iotas. The jiva is a tiny, infinitesimal part of Krishna, but because of our present bodies, we go around being whatever our karma has given us the power to be, like a beautiful woman, or like a strong man, or like a wealthy person, or whatever. And then people begin to create their relationship to people based upon, and they think they're dealing with Krishna, that they're not. They're dealing with karma. They're dealing with how somebody has built up a reality or pseudo reality for themselves, and therefore not wants other people to be impressed. So we have to drop all of that. We have to
Speaking
drop
of-
all of that.
Speaking of which, we should read this excerpt on Sahajism.
Do you have it?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Oh, why not read it out?
A class of so-called devotees known as Prakriti Sahajiyas sometimes display devotional symptoms to exhibit their good fortune. They are pretending, however, because these devotional features are only external. The Prakriti Sahajiyas exhibit these symptoms to advertise their so-called advancement in love of Krishna, but instead of praising the Prakriti Sahajiyas for their symptoms of transcendental ecstasy, pure devotees do not like to associate with them. It is not advisable to equate the Prakriti Sahajiyas with pure devotees. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love of Krishna, he does not try to advertise himself. Instead, he endeavors more and more to render service to the Lord.
Jai. And Jagannath Prabhu also shared some meanings of Sahajya. He says, Prabhupada says, Sahajya. Sahaj means easy, easygoing. They will smoke cigarette at the same time they will play Rasa Leela. This is Sahajya. This is Sahajya. They will do all nonsense. Still, they will become God, imitation of God. So here we go. So yeah, Shreya, my advice and my realization is that you stick with Srila Prabhupada, and whatever people say, let them say, but you stick to the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. In this way, you'll always be on the right track. Now, if you give these people prominent authority, they will be, they can misguide you, and your understanding will be diverted. So this is one of the reasons why we stick with Srila Prabhupada and discuss, what Prabhupada is saying and what is he actually meaning.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu, I'll do that.
That's my realization. So anyone else can share, because I also looked at different paths like this, Nityananda, this, that. Eventually, you'll find out that this is big.
I sometimes come up with worldly questions, and sometimes somebody just jumps in, gives you an answer. So we just tend to incline to hear it out.
Yeah.
I don't completely get diverted, because something, my heart just brings me back to Krishna. Maybe the methods, maybe the practices, I don't believe in any of those, because
Okay.
I strongly believe in my association with Krishna directly. That directly, what I mean when I say directly is because how do I explain what I mean direct? It's just that I have a normal conversation with Krishna. That's all. I'm not saying I'm against anything. It's just my way of being associated with Krishna. So when I'm alone, when I'm doing some work, I'm always in conversation with Krishna. That my mind is always connected to Krishna, and I keep talking to him. And if I do get somebody talking from a different path, different school of thought, I just hear them out, but I don't really get diverted or go in those directions. The whole purpose of me coming back here today is because I've been worrying about this question, or contemplating on this question: why would Krishna want us to serve him? And Narayana and Prabhu clarified that by saying Krishna doesn't need that. If we need it, I mean, the whole thing is all about us needing Krishna's grace. And in order to get that grace is why we go ahead and do our service. And since we cannot have a direct connection with Krishna, we are worshipping his form of the idol, and based on our bhakti towards the idol, Krishna himself will reside there. This is what is my takeaway of today's conversation. So I think, if there is no direct way of connecting with Krishna, and this is the only way, then that means I need to work towards showing my bhakti to Krishna. It just makes me feel like crying right now because I just can't follow any practice. I just can't do any sadhana. If you ask me to chant 108 times, or if you tell me do this, do that, I can't stick to any routines. And that's where I kind of give up on all practices. And the only way I know to stay connected is by talking to Krishna, or, the satsangs, like come here, discuss my doubts, again, go back, do my daily stuff. So I don't know if I've been doing it right or wrong. So I
Well,
always come.
Prabhupada talks about the process of Krishna consciousness. First comes faith. Thou Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha. So Sadhu Sangha can be done with Srila Prabhupada directly by listening to his conversations, lectures, and then that's personal guidance, because when you listen to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada is actually speaking, to you directly. So if he speaks and you listen, the questions will be answered. So like you said, you have come here, you trust Krishna, like you're saying, you talk to him, and then comes a devotee association. So Prabhupada created this International Society for Krishna Consciousness and this Ishtagoshti group to discuss these things.
Right.
So this is one of the processes of talking and solidifying our understanding about, okay, what is actually Krishna consciousness? What is it? Ask your questions just like you're asking here. So association is very important, because that's why I was telling you, we're going back to this paper here. Again, it's saying, Narayan Prabhu is writing here, high level of individual commitment through introspection and process of personal realization.
Yes.
Guru
Very,
Sadhu
very.
Shastra. So this is my emphasis, to have a high level of individual commitment, not only commitment, through introspection, process of personal realization. So this will come. Just hang in the process. It won't happen overnight. It's a gradual process.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a
I-
question?
Yes.
It's just directed to everybody. The question is, isn't the Bhagavad-Gita, as it is, evidence in and of itself, when you read it, that it is possible to have a direct connection with Krishna? Being that 5,000 years ago, the Lord Krishna was standing on 2 feet. Arjuna saw him, even the enemy saw him from across the lines, and I'm sure all sorts of people saw him. Maybe they didn't know who he was, but they actually were there when he was there. So yeah, we're living right now in 2022. The Bhagavad Gita says that we're eternal souls. Maybe I can't have a direct connection with him right now, but I don't think that means that you should give up on that desire to see him eventually, sometime in eternity. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Yes, whenever the individual, minute living entity, spirit, soul, comes to the material world, Krishna is accompanying him in the form of Paramatma. So he's there.
Yeah, but I'm directing it to that. When I look at the Bhagavad Gita, when I read it, it's
Speaking to you. Yes.
well, yeah. I mean, it's like a historical kind of cut and dry, simple thing. There's a guy named Lord Krishna who was there, and Arjuna was a man, and he was sitting in the chariot with him. And I know in the Gita, Prabhupada states that never try to compare yourself to even Arjuna, that Arjuna was so many times, million times more advanced than all of us. But he still was a man. He didn't have 8 arms or anything. And not only that, even Arjuna's worst enemies saw Krishna.
Yeah.
So you can't see Krishna.
It's a little different between Arjuna and Krishna, because Arjuna is also a spirit soul just like we are, but Arjuna is always a liberated soul, Uttama Adhikari. We're conditioned souls. So just like Arjuna is part and parcel of Krishna, but there's a gulf of difference between the conditioned soul and the liberated soul. So there's a technicality here.
What's the
So-
technicality?
There are pure devotees. Whenever Krishna descends, they come with Krishna to perform a certain pastime.
Okay, but see, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but on the other end of that is that, like, look at Jesus Christ. The
Yes?
people that nailed him to the cross were right there nailing him into the cross. They saw Jesus Christ. So your enemy can know you too. It's not necessarily, I mean, sure, you don't want to be that guy, but there was those people that were fighting against Krishna while he was here on the earth. And I'm sure the same thing happened to all the incarnations of Krishna. I'm aware of, I guess they say that Shatanya was an avatar of Vishnu, or that was actually the real deal too. So he was only 500 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So this guy was on the earth 500 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. And when he was walking down the street,
Lord Chaitanya actually was an incarnation of Radha and Krishna combined.
that's interesting.
And he came to bring us the Hare Krishna mantra for this age of Kali for the next 10,000 years. So it's all very planned out. So what is it you wanted to say?
Okay, well, yeah, so it's all planned out. All we can try to understand is what's already happened, and we can never really be quite sure about that as individuals, because we can only know what we know. But through inference of knowing that here we are in the present moment, it says there's an eternity before us. That would dictate, without me not knowing any prophecy or predictions about when Krishna is coming back or when he might drop in unannounced, that some people will not recognize him when he comes. They didn't recognize him. They didn't recognize any of these people when they came. The devotees always recognize, but everyone else doesn't recognize because they might not look the part. They might not do things in a way that people would expect them to do it. But the Gita and I guess any holy book, if you look at it, I know there's a lot of them from India, that they do show you that you can have a direct experience on the earth with God coming to earth. And I mean, that isn't Krishna Loka, because you have to die, right? But it's a glimpse. Isn't that a glimpse?
Well, it's not quite like that, because when Krishna appears, he brings a piece of spiritual territory with him. He never comes to earth per se.
Yeah.
So he brings some spiritual territory with him. And 5,000 years ago, he came in the spiritual territory that he brought was called Vrindavan.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as somebody, as a jiva is what you call it, right? A jiva, J-I-V-A, is just a regular person.
No, jiva is a spiritual spark.
It can be in any form. It's not limited to a human form.
Okay, but is it a self-aware
Well, the
consciousness?
jiva never takes any form. The jiva can inhabit any type of body. The jiva can inhabit an insect body, a bird body, a turtle body, a maggot body, a human body, a demigod body. The jiva is always infinitesimal spark, but he can take on, according to his karma, his intelligence, and his consciousness, he can take on any type of apparent body or physical body. And when he does, he believes that he's the body, and therefore that's what causes everything to occur on earth, from the interactions of the animals and the birds and the insects and the human beings and all other aspects of life. That is all conducted by the fact that each jiva believes that he is the body that he's occupying, which is not true. The jiva is part and parcel of God. When the jiva can become separated from the body, and when he can take the mind, and the jiva can take the spirit soul can take the mind away from the body, then he can become gradually self-realized. But as
Now,
long as
in that instant,
as long as the jiva wants to identify with the body, he's stuck there and he will never get anywhere else except at the moment of death. And at the moment of death, he will take another body.
Prabhu,
So even if he's a big, big king, next body he could become a servant to the king. But he won't know the difference.
Narayana, here's a question I have. Now, you just said when you identify yourself with the body, you get caught up, right? That's where the problem is.
We all do. We're all 100% connected with our body. If I look in the mirror, I say, that's me. When you look in, Shraya, when you look in the mirror, don't you think it's you?
Ramachandra, can you mute everybody? There's a loud echoing sound.
Okay, Shraya, Prabhu, when you look in the
Okay, I muted everyone, so sorry about that. I'm not getting any echo or anything, so I'll unmute Narayan Prabhu once. Narayan Prabhu, can you unmute yourself? I'm unmuting people one by one, so we're trying to isolate this static.
Okay, I don't have any problem here.
Okay, no static, okay. Let's see. Rupa, let me unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? Let's see. Okay. Any more static, Rupa? Or is it me?
No.
Okay, let me unmute Jagannath Das Prabhu. Okay, Jagannath Das Prabhu, any static?
It's Shreya's audio for sure.
Oh, Shreya's audio. Okay. Shreya, I think there's some problem with the audio. So if you can take care of that. We have about 8 minutes, Prabhu. We covered a lot of ground. Jagannath Prabhu, you shared some nice letters, conversations with Srila Prabhupada. So I'd like to read that, some of that. Was that okay?
Definitely.
Okay, so one Jagannath Das Prabhu shared at 9:38 p.m. Regarding Mataji, I have noted your remarks, and actually, we do not want to create a group of Prakritya Sahajya or devotees who do not know the science of Krishna and do not know the science of devotion, but simply worship the deity with no depth of knowledge. This is called a materialistic devotee, but it is also not rejected. It is beginning, but a preacher must have this above. Okay. The regulative principles are designed to take us gradually to the platform of spontaneous love of Krishna, which is the perfection of human life. Those who think they have already attained such a perfection and give up the regulative principles are called sahajya, or those who take things cheaply and simply imitate. This early rising, holding classes, going out regularly for Sankirtan, worshipping the deity are the very first substance of devotional service. Okay, thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Yeah, you have kind of nailed the whole thing that Prabhupada created a system and the regulated principles, and we have to follow this very rigidly, and then the realization will slowly come. That's why Prabhupada is saying here that, raising early, holding classes, chanting regularly, going out in Sankirtan. That's what they did back during the early days of ISKCON. Right, Narayan Prabhu? More or less, they were always chanting on the street and then discussing, doing the morning program and all that. So, and there was, association through Srila Prabhupada's books and audios, right? Or at least later in the 1970s. Okay, anything else, Jagannath Prabhu, you wanted us to read? You shared a lot of stuff here. Sajya part we read. Oh, the children part, maybe we can read. This is a letter to Arundhati Dasi. You can read, Jagannath Prabhu.
Sorry, my child's probably crying. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. My wife will get her. It's kind of appropriate. She's crying. Sorry. Okay. Child worship is more important than deity worship. If you cannot spend time with him, then stop the duties of pujari. At least you must take good care of your son until he is 4 years old. And if after that time you are unable anymore to take care of him, then I shall take care. These children are given to us by Krishna. They are Vaishnavas, and we must be very careful to protect them. They are not ordinary children. They are Vaikuntha children. And we are very fortunate we can give them chance to advance further in Krishna consciousness. That is a very great responsibility. Do not neglect it or be confused. And on the last one, yeah, I mean, I try to follow Prabhupada or my own way for a long time and thinking I could progress, and I didn't make any progress until I actually, followed the regulative principles and started doing what he said to do.
Jai Prabhu, excellent realization. That's been my realization also. Whenever we try to make things up and introduce our mind into it, it does not work. It makes a disaster, and we become confused, right? So that's one of the reasons why we say Prabhupada is the only spiritual leader, guru, acharya for the next 10,000 years, because we don't want to divert anyone to anyone less than perfect.
He's a real cowherd boy who came here.
Yes. Okay, now Narayan Prabhu, any closing words? We're about 3 minutes away.
No, I think this was a very nice and amazing conversation. Srila, did you see get some insights from this conversation as to how to understand Krishna consciousness from different angles of vision? Is Srila still here?
She's still here, but her microphone is not working, but she can try if she can speak.
Okay,
I'm not able to unmute myself.
I don't think the world is a good place if Srila doesn't speak.
Are you able to hear me now? Is there echo from my audio?
Yes.
Okay,
it doesn't do echoey for me.
Yeah, I didn't have problems too, so I'm not sure.
Okay, you can just make a couple of quick comments. We're about 2 minutes away from closing. Sure, Prabhu.
Sure. So, with regards to the regulative principles, I do follow them diligently because I don't have those problems. I'm away from.
No, we're not accusing you of anything here. We're just saying that there's a process behind this, like association with Srila Prabhupada, direct association.
I get that. So I'm only saying I do follow them, so I don't have those problems. So I really don't have to put any effort to follow them. So it is something that's just natural for me. Coming to the deity worship, what I meant to say is I think I'll leave that for the next conversation. Maybe I don't want to comment about it right now. I'll just leave that part because I need some time to formulate my thoughts and bring it back onto the forum.
And I think do some heart searching, please, Srila Prabhu. You're very beloved.
I'm doing that a lot.
You're very beloved on this association. Do some heart searching and come back and bring more ideas. And don't be ever afraid to express yourself here. This is a place for open expression.
And another thing, I'm not a Sahajya. I'm definitely sure of that. For anybody who's in doubt, so I'm just clarifying it. I don't smoke or know about the Ras Leela, and I don't do all the nonsense or imitate God worship. My problem is the pattern that we are following for worship, and I'm not commenting about your pattern, his pattern, her pattern. I'm talking about my personal pattern and practice because I have a problem. I'm not talking about others here. I'm also trying to do it, like you said, Prabhu. I'm doing a lot of heart searching. I am trying to completely dissociate my mind, the mind's play, the activity, all the tantrums that it throws, at real life scenarios, because I do see life connected with Krishna when I dissociate from the entire mind's activity. So I am doing the searching part. But with regards to the child worship, I'm not asking anybody to give up on their dharmic duties, because that's the first lesson we all learn from the Bhagavad-Gita, that we need to stick to our responsibilities and duties after we take form as in the human form. It is on the path to realizing Krishna. The next thing comes to all the people that we are associated with, then our association with Mother Earth, and it has to do with anything that you're associated, that you owe some sort of a duty, that you need to protect it, to take care of it. It's not just your child, it is also to do with uh, your surroundings, and how you treat people, how you take care of your everyday life. That's the whole idea. So you do
Yes,
have
but Shraya, you sound better already just in this conversation. I'm feeling that we're speaking heart to heart, and that's a very good step in the right direction.
I'll tell you what the problem is with Ishtagoshti, Prabhu, as in um, all of us are connecting at varying levels of bhakti, and nobody has any right to comment about bhakti, because for sure they're all searching, they're all seeking, and they're all walking towards one goal. No matter which school of thought you go to, everybody is trying to meet.
Ishtagoshti is for everyone. It's
Right.
not exclusionary.
Yeah. So I'm only saying, when people comment about each other, I think you need to be very, very
No, we're not trying to comment about each other. We comment directly, person to person. I comment directly to you. You comment directly to me.
I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm only I'm or take this as my request, that everybody needs to be honestly considerate, because everybody is trying to do something which is correct. There will be mistakes, there will be hardships, there will be
Yeah, but
obstacles.
we're not responsible for what other people are doing. We can invite them to chant Hare Krishna with us.
Right.
But we can't chase them down the road because of what they're doing, nor can we allow them to lure us into their state of mind. We need to stay in our own Krishna conscious state of mind, which is very beautiful and very strong, and then invite others to join us.
Right. So I wanted to, like I said, the takeaway for me has been about understanding it's not the opposite side response or reactions based on which I understand my worship to Krishna, but it's all about me, and that's it. So I just need to continue to practice, praying to Krishna, and that should take care of it. That's what I see as probably the answer for my question today.
Jai, Mohit Prabhu, welcome. We're about to end, Mohit Prabhu. You joined last minute. So we had a good crowd today. We had like 8 or 9 devotees joining us. And there were some comments online also. So let me see here.
And we were all struggling with some tough issues too.
Of course, we're in the material world. We're always going to be struggling, more or less. But it should get more smoother, hopefully. Okay, so let's see. Let me read some comments off, then we'll end. Is that okay? Maybe another 5-10 minutes.
Mohit Prabhu said he can't unmute. He's
Mohit
can't.
Okay.
Something.
Oh, sorry, Mohit Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. How's everything going? Hari Bol.
Glory to Mohit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, all good. Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol. I've been missing you guys very lately, but
Shraya Prabhu with us. And she had all sorts of interesting burdens to carry on her shoulders. But anyhow, you know Shraya from before? She was here.
I remember 6 months back she joined us, and then 2-3 meetings she was there. She had interesting insights about Srila Prabhupada and her bhakti, how she does. So yeah.
Okay, so let me just read up some comments here from our devotee guests, friends, well-wishers online. One, Rob B. Prabhu says, only with Krishna we can have eternal life. Hare Krishna. And there's another devotee, Avakta. Many devotees have spent 1,000s of hours discussing it. I recommend to please hear series of talk given by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami entitled, Why is ISKCON so wishy-washy? Aristo Prabhu says, Hare Krishna. Then I asked Avaktya, discussing what? Bhakti Vikas is another appointed GBC ISKCON guru. Then Aristo Prabhu says, he asked a question, is the GBC in control of ISKCON Mayapur, Los Angeles, and Vrindavan? And I said, Aristo, yes, the GBC of West Bengal is the controller of the ISKCON Corporation, which wasn't created by Srila Prabhupada. And then Aristo Prabhu says, that is a significant obstacle. Thus, we must consolidate efforts to build temples here. Aristo Prabhu says, thank you. And Aristo says, Hare Krishna. Then Aristo Prabhu says, akarma, vikarma, and karma. And he says, Hare Krishna, actions that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures, are called karma. Then Rob B. Prabhu says, never lose faith in Krishna. Aristo Prabhu further says, actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Then Aristo Prabhu says, actions that are free. No, it says actions that free one from the cycle of birth and death is called akarma. Aristo then says, in the Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 3, verse 9 to 16, the personality of God, it says that one cannot attain the state of akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. Then Aristo Prabhu further comments, karma means prescribed duties. That is called karma, and vikarma means doing against the prescribed duties. That is called vikarma. And akarma means something, and akarma means something doing which has no reaction. Hare Krishna, Aristo says. Then Aristo says, the plant science is clear, as Srila Prabhupada repeatedly said. We compare energy losing a potato crop and in beef cattle production. With potato, about 30% of the original sunlight energy become usable food energy for humans. With beef, only 4%. And then we got Rath Yatra Prabhu watching from South India, tuning in from the mountains of South India. Hari Bol, everyone, your servant, Rath Yatra Das. Okay, Rath Yatra Prabhu, Hare Krishna. We need to talk, Prabhu. Aristo Prabhu says, in fact, an acre of land can produce in a year almost 9 times as much protein, potato protein, as beef protein. Source, Men's Body and Owner's Manual, and April 1976. There's some devotee named Self-Savior. Heno Nitai Bina Bhai Radha Krishna Na Paye. Nitai Bolo Mukhe Majilo Samsara Sukhe Vidya Kule Ki Kori Bare Tare. Disciple equals discipline in service of Krishna, Aristo says. Logic and reason is the basis of self-realization in Krishna consciousness, Aristo. Aristo again says, Srila Prabhupada taught us that logic and reason supersedes all material desire in order to reach a karmic state in service of Lord Krishna. Aristo then further says, he was not reliant upon Vedic cosmology in protestalizing of Krishna consciousness as prescribed in the Bhagavad-Gita. Aristo, Hare Krishna, obeisances to all devotees. And Rabbi says, just have faith in Krishna. Okay, that's all the comments, Prabhu.
Pretty amazing comments.
Yeah. Jagannath Prabhu saying tomorrow is Ekadasi for those going to bed now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Jai. Okay,
Tomorrow
Prabhu.
is Nirjala Ekadashi.
Huh?
Haribol.
Nirjala.
Tomorrow is Nirjala Ekadashi, Haribol.
Oh, acha. Excellent. I'll look at the calendar. Okay, Prabhus, thank you very much. We got K.R. Bliss, Jagannath Prabhu, Vinayak, Krupa Manjari, Shreya, Nara Narayan, and all the cyberspace devotees. Okay, so our next meeting is going to be on Sunday, Prabhus. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you all for gathering together. And let us remember that Krishna is in the center and we are his servants.
Okay.